Hey guys, it's time for another Star Wars Black Series exclusive. This time we have got the Target exclusive Luke on AHCH-TO, the deluxe figure with the base. So we previously had the Rey on crate figure, so now we've got the Luke. And he is in that same style box. It's a thicker box. It's got a Velcro piece on it with some product shots on the inner flap. We got that big window. We can see our Luke in here. There is a hand hiding down underneath. And then we got that big, humongous base, which is a lot bigger and looks a lot better than I thought it did from product shots. The back has some more imagery of Luke and then a write-up as well. But obviously there's not going to be a whole lot of interesting information in that little blurb. So let's pull this guy out and take a closer look. All right, guys. So here is our Jedi Luke on the AHCH-TO base. And I've got a little bit to talk about here. We're not going to go super in-depth on the figure itself because we've already seen this figure. There are just some changes that we will talk about, and it's mostly going to be a look at the base and then a comparison between this Luke and the previous Luke, because there are differences there, and that may, change your opinion on what you already have versus what you can buy or maybe what you want on your shelf. So let's take a look at the figure itself just to start. So we have got Luke here, and you can see he's got a lot of soft goods going on this time around. There is new paint application on the face and just some general tweaks to make him different enough that warrants a deluxe set. So let's pull him off the base. We'll take a look at him and do side by side with the original Luke, and then we'll take a look at this big hunk of plastic here. Alright guys, so here are our Lukes. This is the new one here on the left. We've got our original one on the right, and this is the one specifically from the San Diego Comic-Con pack. I didn't actually buy the regular release. So let's just take a look at the differences because there are quite a few. The first of which is the cloak. It's a different color. So this is a darker gray. This is more of a tan. They both work in the same way. I believe, just to me, from what I've seen so far, this one sits on the new figure slightly better than the original one. They both still have the strings inside the cape, so you can tie it around his neck somehow. They're both just sitting on him right now because I'm going to take them off. Just makes it easier for me to manipulate the figure right now. So I prefer the newer cape. I like the color better, and I do think it sits a little bit better on the figure. So we can knock the original one down and pick him back up, but we'll take these capes off real quick. And underneath you have got your base figure. So to start with, I believe, and as always, if I am wrong, someone please correct me, that the head sculpts on these guys are the same. There is a difference in paint application for sure. I am still not 100% sold on this Luke. I think that his face looks a little too gaunt. He looks like kind of sullen, basically. And this new paint scheme on the new figure doesn't really do anything to fix that. I think it makes it just as bad, but in a different way. So I'm not 100% on board still. I don't care for the paint job on either, basically, but I do prefer this one just because it has more. So I like the application that we do have some paint, but it doesn't fix the overall problems. We do know that the sculpt is there, as is normally the case. It's just there is always a lack of paint apps on these figures. There is a different paint app going on with the hair. The original one had a little more white kind of brushed in. This one doesn't really have that. And then there's different paint apps on the beard. The next big thing is going to be the robes, the inner robes themselves. So this figure is all plastic. This guy has an interesting mix of soft goods and plastic. So these whiter or more cream bands that run through are singular pieces of plastic that sit over top of the figure and over top of these soft goods kind of robe. And I actually prefer this look to this one. This gives it a little more depth, makes it a little bit more lively rather than just a plastic robe that hangs down in one particular fashion. This can kind of flow a little bit better. Still not perfect because, soft goods at this scale, they always have their little quirks depending on, what they're used for. And this, I think, works pretty well. They're not too long. They aren't restrictive in any way either, so that's good as well. The other thing that I've noticed that is different is the color of the belt. General paint apps are different. The lightsaber clip on the belt is brown on this one, and it is just the unpainted kind of white cream on this one. He does have the robo hand on the figure. So this one comes with just the plastic hand in the box. He does come with a die cast hand. That's kind of one of the deluxe things, is he's got a die cast hand. You can hear that. This thing has no hinge though. So you're going to plug it in and it's going to stay there. It's got kind of the mushroom peg on it. Just peg it into the wrist like any other hand. It is a closed fist versus an open fist. So that's different. He has no grip here, but it also has no articulation. So it'll rotate, but it can't hinge in any way. So you'd have to kind of pick your battle in terms of how you want to use that. I'm not sure if I'm going to use it yet or not. It just kind of depends. But beyond that, the figures are, basically the same. You've got, different paint on the boots and on those straps, just a little bit of difference in the color there. Not too much, and it's hard to really notice. This is more of a cream, where this is just the unpainted. So they're basically the same figure. It just comes down to how they've stylized him with this, with the soft goods, and then of course with the difference on the face sculpt, or the face paint rather. And I do prefer this figure, I think, at this point, but I still don't think it makes up for the fact that it's still just not that great. I am waiting for that digital face printing technology to hit this line so they can really knock it out of the park with a Jedi Exile Luke, just, right after Figure Arts probably releases theirs, but that is another story. So let's take a look at the base now, because honestly, I think that might be the best thing going for this set. All right, now for the base itself, this thing is pretty big. It's bigger than I thought. It takes up most of the space in the box in terms of width, because it's got this little part that juts out. So, you could have Luke standing here, put one of your Rey figures here, kind of try to recreate the iconic scene from the end of The Force Awakens. Of course, we don't have a figure of that version of Rey yet, because that would be Resistance Rey, and we still don't have her. So we can complain about that until we get one. But the base itself, I think, is actually pretty good. I'm not normally a base guy. Like, it doesn't normally do anything for me. I don't have any of the Force Awakens figures with bases or the Jyn Erso figure on display. I don't really care. But I am displaying the crate base for Rey, and I'm definitely going to be using this one on one of my shelves. So it is just, we'll use a figure for scale here. So it's about 8 inches, roughly. And it's got some nice paint apps on it. There is obviously a lot of green on it, and it's got some black dry brushing in there to give it a bit of a wash, give it some depth, make it look like there's some kind of flowing grass in the breeze. And there's just a lot of jagged, rocky structures on it. So yeah, I'm overall pretty happy. It's got 2 pegs, if you hadn't already seen. So we've got one up here, so it'd be for Luke, and one down here for your Rey. And just to show it off, here's how you can kind of set up your base. Obviously, you can get a little more dynamic with this when you have more time and you're not on camera. But you can put your Luke up here on the top. You've got your Rey down here on the bottom. I'm going to use, I guess, the current Rey, because the Jakku Rey just really won't work. This Island Journey Rey will be the best substitute until we get that Resistance base Rey. But I think for the size of this base and the overall look, I think it does its job really well, and I am overall very, very happy with this base, more so than I ever expected to be, which is always a good thing. So at the end of the day, I am pretty happy with this set. I don't think that it is 100% necessary for everyone. If you're a completionist, obviously you're going to get it. But if you've passed on Luke already, then this is the one to get for sure. There's no reason to get the original Luke if you already can get this one without having the need for duplicates. They are different figures, obviously, in terms of their materials and some paint apps, but ultimately, at the end of the day, they are the same figure. They just have a few differences, and this one is the better of the two. The face is still not 100% there. It still does not look good enough to me, but I am confident that they're going to fix that down the road, and this base really does a lot to make this set a little more worthwhile than your average Black Series figure. So that is going to do it for this look at the Deluxe Luke Skywalker with the AHCH-TO base from Hasbro. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.